It's been 12 days since Clavicular was ruthlessly frame-mocked by an ASU frat leader. And just a few days before that, I had my wisdom teeth removed. So luckily, I've had a little bit of time off work to recover from both of those things. And since I knew I was going to be off work, I figured, what else am I going to do besides sit up, watch movies? Might as well put together a little movie marathon for tonight's episode. And that's what we did. I was just eating pudding all day, just drinking milkshakes, living my best life. The one thing that I kind of underestimated was how bad I was going to be put out by this whole operation that I did. The whole, I don't know, it was a little more brutal than I expected. It took me a little longer to bounce back from this whole thing than I thought. So I was under the impression that I was going to be going under when they took my teeth out. And the whole thing was just, I wasn't that nervous going into it, really. Like, I was thinking, like, okay, they're going to knock me out, cut some fucking teeth out, and I'll be back on my way. I'll be skipping out of this goddamn office. So I'm sitting there. I got my playlist ready. I've got In Together Now by Limp Bizkit going in the headphones. They come in there. They give me like 6 Valium, and they're just like, eat these Valium, suck in this gas, and we're going to be ready for you in no time. And I was thinking, like, fuck yeah, I'm going to be asleep in, minutes. And about 30 minutes after I take the pills, they come back in there and they're asking how I'm feeling. I felt exactly the same. I didn't feel any more high or relaxed or anything like that. And I was like, I'm feeling all right. And they're like, all right, so we're just going to go ahead and cut these motherfuckers out. And they did. And I could pretty much, feel everything, all the sawing and the crunching and stuff. I'm just sitting there like, wow, not exactly how I expected this to go, but they get me out of there. I walk right out the door. And then after that, it's just kind of a long recovery. And the thing that I didn't expect, and I don't know why, because I've had other surgeries and stuff like that in the past, and this always happens, is that it's always so hard to poop afterwards. And they never really give you the heads up that, like, hey, you're going to need to start eating prunes and drinking laxatives and stuff like that weeks in advance. Get them pipes hot and greasy before you get this done, because once you take all these pills and all this stuff, you're not going to be shitting. And I don't know why that is. It just like really backs you up. And then you got the worst thing about it was that I just had tummy aches the whole time. I had tummy aches from the, I don't know, it was from the antibiotics or the steroids that they had me on or what. But that was probably the thing that I should have been expecting. I should have oiled up all my holes in advance, and I didn't. That's my bad, I guess. I need to remind myself anytime I ever get something like that done again, get them things going, get the fiber going. So I've been playing catch up as far as taking dumps goes, which hasn't been too fun. And with that being said, I didn't get to as many movies as I planned. Like, I was thinking, like, damn, I'm probably going to hammer out like 10 movies throughout this recovery time. I had about a week, to recover. So I was like, I'll probably even be rewatching like some classics like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, even, maybe revisit some of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, even, or, just some go-tos. Might even watch The Stand, made for TV movie. And I did watch a Stephen King adaptation, but it wasn't The Stand. Yeah, I didn't get to all that. I got to about 4 movies is kind of what I ended up doing, and we'll talk about those 4 movies. Just kind of give you a quick rundown. There was some good, there was some bad. It was a nice little mix-up, like nice little variety of movies that I ended up going through. So, excuse me, God damn it. Really gassy right now too. I don't know what's going on with that. Everything's kind of, I think, homeostasis is returning, I think, is what's happening. All the, I'm done with my antibiotics, done with the steroids. I haven't been taking any, they didn't give me any pain medicine at all, which I thought was interesting. I just kind of took ibuprofen and stuff like that. And I asked them what that was about, and they said, well, we looked you up on social media and we saw how based you were, so we figured you didn't need it. Yeah, one of the movies that I watched is might have an effect on the way that I do the next monthly franchise watch. I had another franchise watch in mind. I'm finishing up the Scream movies right now. Scream 7's coming out at the end of this month. About to watch that shit. And I was kind of leaning towards maybe doing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but after watching one of the movies for this little episode, I was like, I might do something different. I might do a little Stephen King thing here. Maybe watch some Stephen King adaptations. Obviously not all of them, because that would just basically be never ending. I'd be going on for years watching goddamn Stephen King adaptations. But I thought maybe pick like a handful of them, compare them to the books, maybe like read the books at the same time and talk about them. That might be kind of fun. I did that with The Shining on my Patreon recently. So check out the Patreon if you want to see what the difference is between the Shining movie and the book, and kind of my thoughts and opinions on that. Thought that turned out pretty well. It was pretty fun to do. So yeah, I might do that. Might do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know. I can't really tell. I just kind of been wanting to watch the original one, and I haven't ever finished that franchise, so it's one that I've kind of been wanting to get into and really just go ahead and knock them all out. They'll probably be doing another Texas Chainsaw Massacre soon anyway, so maybe by the time I get done with that, there'll be a new movie to watch at the end, kind of like with the Scream franchise. So we'll see how that goes. But speaking of the Scream franchise, I did put out an episode last week that appears to be pulled off of Spotify. Probably for copyright, I guess, because I was playing the end of the Scream, the first Scream movie in the video, so that's probably why. But it is still up on YouTube. I think it's on Apple Podcast and most other streaming platforms still. So if you want to check that out, it's a video just going over the end sequence of Scream 1, showing Billy get speared with the umbrella, Stu Macher getting crushed by the TV, mostly going over those two things and kind of talking about my feelings about the end of that movie and what I think might happen in Scream 7. We'll see. Okay, so the first movie I got into was Begonia. This came out in 2025. I think it was up for some pretty serious Oscar awards, if I'm not mistaken. It was directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, which this was my first Yorgos movie. I've been meaning to get to Poor Things and Dogtooth, but I just haven't yet. I thought I would. I was really excited about Poor Things coming out. I thought it looked pretty cool, and then I just never got around to it. So I would say, without seeing any of his other movies, though, this would be a great intro film if you're getting into Yorgos Lanthimos movies. It feels like a very easy entry point. I'm just kind of guessing from what I've heard about some of his other movies. Like Poor Things, this one stars Emma Stone. Begonia also has Jesse Plemons in it as the second main character. Stavros Halkias of the Come Town fame has a decent role in this as a police officer who probably sexually assaulted Jesse Plemons' character when they were younger, because he's like mentions how he used to babysit him and stuff like that, and he keeps apologizing for something he did to him, and just sounds like he probably like made him suck his dick or something like that. I'm just kind of guessing. They never come out and say it, but that's the vibe you get for sure. Anyway, Emma Stone plays Michelle Fuller. She's a CEO of a major pharmaceutical company. We see her living a very corporate, very lavish lifestyle. And on the other hand, there's Teddy and Dan. And Teddy is the Jesse Plemons character. He's a hardcore conspiracy theorist that thinks that Michelle is an alien. His cousin Dawn, did I say Dan? His cousin Dawn is sitting on the spectrum somewhere and is basically just kind of being guided and influenced by Teddy with like these theories about an alien race that he's trying to hunt down and I guess like stop them from taking over the world, or they've already taken over the world and they're kind of using the humans as slaves, basically. This is one of those movies that gives you a bulletin point to add to your how do I know I'm being brought into a cult checklist, which I think is always really helpful. Everyone kind of needs to have one of these just in case you ever need to ask yourself, like, is this a cult? Is this too good to be true? Or is this just like a multi-level marketing scheme or something? Because they're similar but different. And one of the things you can separate them is with the question that I got from this movie, which is, are you being asked to chemically castrate yourself? And if the answer is yes, you're in a cult, you need to leave. Don't do the castration, get out of there. But I think everyone should have at least a basic checklist to make sure that they're not in a cult or not being indoctrined into a cult. You know what I'm saying? Just in case things start to seem a little too suspicious. Teddy and Don, they do end up kidnapping Michelle pretty early on. I'm not going to get into spoilers or anything really. I'm just going to kind of do some overview and whatnot of some of these movies. So don't worry if you haven't seen it yet. I'm not going to spoil anything that's not in the trailer. So yeah, they kidnap her, they shave her head, they cover in like this, like the Twinkie cream, the cream that's in the middle of the Twinkies or something like that. And we see Teddy, you know, he's putting tin foil all over his house, really stereotypical cult member type of shit or conspiracy theory kind of shit. And the more time we spend with him, the more we learn about like why he thinks Michelle is an alien. It's it goes really deep and it gets really personal with the Teddy character. I thought that was great. It was something I wasn't really expecting right away. I just thought he was a fucking loon. And I mean, kind of is, kind of isn't. I guess you kind of make your own mind up about that as the movie goes on. He's definitely going to some pretty extreme lengths to prove that this lady's an alien. But yeah, it was really fun. We get great performances from Jesse Plemons and Emma Stone. Of course, they do great jobs. They're going back and forth throughout the whole thing, just kind of arguing and trying to prove their points about why she is or isn't an alien. And they're going full bug shit as the movie goes on. Teddy especially, he's just like fucking bugged out of his goddamn mind. And you start to see why Don would buy into some of this goofy shit. Like it's one of those things where you're like, who would believe this shit? I mean, besides him being like clearly, I think he's autistic or something. He's on the spectrum. But besides that, you know, you can see why he's like convinced. Teddy does have some pretty good points at some parts in the movie. Besides all the electrocuting aliens in his basement and stuff like that, you know, he does make some pretty good points. I won't say too much more though, but I really thought this was a fun movie overall. Probably my favorite movie that I've watched from 2025 so far. And I think it's like a 4 out of 5. Really, really solid movie. It's on Peacock right now. So go ahead and check out Begonia. Fantastic movie. And the second movie I watched is a movie called The Passenger. The poster or the cover art for this movie is kind of what caught my attention. It's a 2023 movie that I didn't know anything about. It was one of those where I was just kind of like skimming through, flipping through, seeing what was free to stream at the time while I was laying there just, you know, eating chocolate pudding. And the art kind of looks like a 70s grindhouse-ish poster. So I was like, okay, this seems kind of cool. I feel like I've seen the art for it pop up every once in a while, and I hadn't heard much about it. So I thought, what the hell? I'll throw this thing on, see if it's any good. What do I got to lose? And right away, when we're kicking in, I noticed the Blumhouse intro. It's a Blumhouse production, which I wasn't expecting. And I was kind of like, okay, well, Blumhouse, it's usually pretty hit or miss. You know what I'm saying? They're going to give me that Blumhouse goo, whether I like it or not. And I'm just going to have to eat it. But really, it wasn't too bad for a Blumhouse flick. It was kind of more of, overall, I'd say it was more of like a middle of the road Blumhouse movie, which I haven't seen too often. So I don't know if that's good or bad. Honestly, I kind of prefer it to either be really bad or really good. So I don't know. Overall, it was just kind of a predictable movie, to be honest. I'll kind of get into what this one's about a little more since it's not quite as new as Begonia. But it did have the guy from Cuckoo in it. I didn't write his name down or anything. I just recognized his face from the trailers right away. And so this guy, you know, he's going from Blumhouse to Neon, which might be a step in the right direction depending on what your tastes are and stuff like that. If you like A24 adjacent movies like that Neon puts out, you might want to watch them and something like that. I haven't seen Cuckoo yet. I thought I remember hearing it was all right, but for as much as it was kind of hyped up when the trailer was coming out, compared to the response after it came out, I kind of got the feeling that maybe it wasn't as good as it was supposed to be. But the guy's a pretty good actor. The guy that did that, you know, he does a pretty decent job in this movie. So it's about basically these two characters. We've got Randy, who is this really meek, almost like Jesse Eisenberg. He's like Jesse Eisenberg if you took out like all of the interesting qualities from him. Like, kind of reminds me of him in 30 Minutes or Less. If you just made him like really fucking sad the whole time, instead of like, I feel like in that movie he's a little bit more rebellious or whatever. But if you just took all that away and he was just kind of like a sad sack of shit, that's kind of what Randy is. And we find out that the reason why he's like that, or like the main reason why he's like that, so he's like a grown man in this movie. He's like 22 or something, like he's an adult or something. And he's working at this fast food restaurant. And the reason why he's so goddamn like timid and passive about everything is because when he was like in the second grade, he accidentally knocked out his teacher's eye with an eraser. What? Yeah, and you kind of get that from like this flashback, and it doesn't explain exactly what happens, but he's just like kind of zoning out, like thinking about shit and being a wuss. And then it just shows like his teacher screaming and like blood's fucking shooting out of her eye. I thought they were going to tell us that he stabbed her in the eye with a pair of scissors when she was like yelling at him or something like that. And I was like, that would make more sense because, that's not an accident really. And maybe he would like question himself a little bit more. But when you hear the whole story and he explains it, it's basically that like he flicked an eraser at her and it just happened to like smoke her in the fucking eye so hard that I guess her eyeball exploded. It's honestly crazy. Like I imagine, yeah, you could get your eye put out from getting hit hard enough in the eye with an eraser. But when you see the flashback, there's like so much fucking blood coming out of her eye that it's hard to imagine an eraser doing that unless it was like sharpened to a point maybe, and it's like a fucking heavy ass thick eraser. I don't know, but they never really like show us anymore other than that one quick scene of her like bleeding and screaming in his face. And it's just like, goddamn. I mean, I guess, yeah, I understand why he'd be kind of fucked up from it. But it's like ruined his whole life, basically. And he's just like this really sad sack of shit character. So anyway, he works at a fast food restaurant. It basically shows him go to work. They're supposed to be opening him, and there's like 3 other coworkers there and a manager. The other main character, the guy from Cuckoo, his name is Benson. And you just kind of see him like mopping or sweeping or some shit the whole time. And then there's this couple that's working there too, and they're like, the same age, like early 20s or something. And this one guy, I don't know what his fucking name was, but he's like a bully, and he's just like making out with his girlfriend the whole time when they're supposed to be opening, and then he just starts bullying Randy for some reason. He's just like, oh yeah, I work here too, but I'm not gonna do fucking shit. I'm just going to fucking grab my girlfriend's ass the whole time and talk shit to Randy for some reason. So he's just like, saying, oh, Randy, come over here and fucking lick my balls and stuff like that. Eat my ass out and stuff in the middle of the store. And Randy's just kind of like, okay. And he'll just do it like I don't know. Basically just like fucking dunking on Randy like nonstop. He's treating him like he's a goddamn live streamer or something, but I think this is supposed to be before live streaming was a thing. Thank God. But anyway, this guy, he's bullying the fuck out of him. He like makes him eat an old cheeseburger that somebody left in the warmer all night or something like that, and Randy just does it for some reason instead of just, I don't know why he just wanted to be like, no, I'm just going to leave or something, or I'm going to go tell the manager. Like, I don't know. He's such a goddamn wuss in this movie that it's insane. So while that's going on, Benson goes out to his car and gets his shotgun and just comes in and fucking murders the fuck out of them. And I think he kills the manager too. And he's like, all right, Randy, you're going to help me drag the bodies in the freezer and we're going to go on a road trip or something. And it's one of those things where I kind of wish that the roles were reversed, because Benson seems like more of a stereotypical, like, confrontational type of guy. I was honestly, when this started going on, I was like, I think I would like this better if Randy was the one that snapped, shot everybody, and then like I guess, kidnapped Benson or whatever, took Benson hostage. I don't know. I just think that would have been like a more interesting dynamic. This felt very, like I said, felt like a very predictable movie, very, very like boilerplate, just kind of like, we're going to do this type of movie. And this is, we're going to hit all the beats, do all the things that you kind of expect. And that's kind of what happened. So basically they just go on this road trip. They kind of hang out and learn about each other. They go to Benson's house. Benson's mom's all like pilled out or something. And he's, she can tell something's up, but she doesn't really do anything, I guess. He trades a shotgun in for a handgun, and then they keep going on their way. I honestly don't even know, I can't remember what the point of them doing this road trip even is. They basically just go around places, and eventually Randy tells Benson about the fucking teacher that he put her eye out to and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, he's like, I'm going to take you to the teacher's house now and we're going to go talk to her or something. But first, they go to the school, and Benson kind of sweet talks the lady in the office to get the teacher's address. He's like, yeah, this is Randy, what's his fucking face, that knocked her eye out, and he wants to go say hi to her or something. So they're like, oh yeah, sure, you can have her fucking home address, because, I don't know what year this is supposed to be in. I guess I think they have smartphones, so it's not that old, I guess. But it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, if this was set in the 80s or 90s, I could see this happening. So anyway, basically that happens. We kind of get the idea that Benson was molested by this guy that works at the school, and he happens to run into him while they're getting the lady's address. So he beats the fuck out of that guy in the parking lot. Then they go to the teacher's house, and she's really excited to see Randy. He thinks she's going to hate his ass and resent him because he thinks he ruined her life. But she's actually really happy and just kind of oh yeah, no, I totally forgive you. My life's been fine. I've got kids and shit now. I got divorced, but I got kids out of it. So I'm pretty happy about that. And so on and so on. So they kind of catch up, and it's nice. But then she notices something's a little off with Benson, and that his knuckles are all bloody, and somebody calls and they're like, hey, yeah, some guys just beat the shit out of this guy and he's basically dead or whatever. And so then Benson's like, all right, I'm taking both you guys hostage now and shit like that. Anyway, it just kind of goes on and on like that until eventually they get into a confrontation with the police, and Benson does a death by cop suicide or whatever, He goes out there and points the gun at him so the cops will shoot him to death. And that's pretty much the end of the movie. I guess right before the credits, we kind of see that Randy and the teacher, they remain friends and stuff like that. And he hangs out with her kids and shit. I don't know. It was just kind of a middle of the road, not a bad movie or anything. Not really any awful performances, just nothing that really stood out. It felt very very plain Jane movie as far as this type of story goes. So, all right, movie. I would say it's, like I said, 2.5 out of 5, straight down the middle of the fucking road. And the number 3 movie, this was a big one for me because it just is. It Chapter 2. So this is my first time watching this movie. I just finished the book It, which is an achievement in its own. If you know what I'm saying, it's a long fucking one. I just do the audiobook, so I think it's 48 hours long. It took me forever. But it was good. It was really good. It was better than I expected. And that's just something that I've noticed more. Every time I listen to especially one of the Stephen King classics, it's just they're always a little better than I'm even expecting. I always hear how good they are, but I'm I kind of know the story, or I've heard the story through other people that have read the books. I've seen the movies. So I'm not expecting to be that blown away or whatever. But yeah, pretty much every time I have been. And I think that's really impressive, especially if you kind of know what you're getting into beforehand. The whole book is basically spoiled for me in a way, since I kind of know what happens and how it ends before I even get into it. And for it to still be as engaging as it is, I think is really impressive and says a lot about how good of a writer Stephen King is. Obviously, being one of the biggest writers, especially when it comes to horror, it's a deserved title for him, I think, for sure. So yeah, It Chapter 2. I saw the first It remake, in theaters when it came out. And then, I just wasn't that into it. I really like the 90s made for TV one. I know it's not like the greatest movie ever or anything like that, or like the scariest movie ever. A lot of it probably does have to do with nostalgia. I grew up watching it. It was probably one of the earlier like horror movies that I watched, and it just always stuck with me. I thought it was really cool. It has that like Stand By Me feel where you got this group of kids going on an adventure together, and kind of almost like Phantasm, like where it's like you're following around this like childlike sense of wonder that these kids are going through. And, part of it's like, is this mostly due to their imagination, or is it like all this stuff really happening? And I feel like specifically with it and the town of Derry, once you get into all that whole like lore and whatnot, like the adults don't see things because they've like grown out of it. So they don't, I guess it's that they don't believe in it anymore. So like the kids will see things that the adults don't and stuff like that. And I just think the whole setup's really, really great. But back to the 90s movie. Yeah. Grew up loving that. So when the remake came out, I don't know. I hadn't read the book yet. I realized now after like getting through the book that the It Chapter 1 and 2 are a little bit or quite a bit more faithful to the book, but overall that doesn't really matter that much to me. Like I feel like what really matters is the end result. Like what do you get when it's all said and done? It's almost like how people with The Shining and people saying the made for TV version of The Shining is better because it's a closer adaptation to the book. No, that's not the case. The Stanley Kubrick's The Shining is far superior to the fucking bullshit ass made for TV one. But I felt kind of the same way with this. I felt like the remake, for me, it wasn't as good as the 90s movie. Just the overall, like the end product, what you get. And I don't know. That's definitely a personal thing. I think the remake, the It Chapter 1, Chapter 2 movies, they're obviously like done well and well acted and stuff like that. There's just something about it, especially It Chapter 2. I'd have to go back and watch the first one again to really get a sense of how that was. It might have been way different than what I'm remembering. But It Chapter 2 just kind of felt like a fucking mess. And I think that's kind of what I heard when it came out. So I just never really took the time to go see it. I figured this would be a good time to watch it, especially after finishing up the book. And I haven't watched Welcome to Derry yet. That might be something that I get to at some point, probably for the Patreon since it's a TV show, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. And as far as this one in the book goes, there were some, it did stay fairly faithful to the book in some ways. In some ways, not so much. I think the ways that it changed kind of hurt the movie quite a bit. The Henry Bauer character just didn't feel like as impactful in this movie. Although he does, he shows up and he attacks Eddie and he attacks Mike. It just, or does he? Yeah, he attacks Mike and Mike kills him, I'm pretty sure. Or no, or does Eddie kill him? I don't know. I'm having a hard time remembering it now, but in the book, he attacks Mike first and he like really badly hurts Mike. He like stabs him in the leg really bad and Mike stabs him in the stomach with the letter opener. Bowers leaves with the letter opener still in his stomach to go attack Eddie and Eddie kills him. Is how I remember it anyway. But that takes Mike out of the equation. He's like laid up in the hospital, which I don't know. I just thought the way the book did it was honestly kind of perfect. I wish the movie did. I didn't really care for the actor that played Mike in Chapter 2 either. He felt like one of the worst performances in the movie. Just felt really hammy. Honestly, the best part about It Chapter 2 was Bill Hader's performance as Richie. I thought he did a great job. I think the guy that did Eddie was really good too. The rest of them I just didn't think were very good. I know you got the one guy from fucking Speak No Evil and oh my gosh, let me get a little drink here. And Split, McAvoy, you got him up in this bitch again. And I just didn't really care for his performance at all. I didn't really like his portrayal of Bill. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. And same with fucking Ben. I thought the guy that played Ben that was like supposed to be the hunk and stuff like that just kind of sucked. Just felt like really, almost like really soap opera-ish or really like melodramatic. Same with Bev. It just, none of it really hit for me. I don't know. And I think a lot of it had to do with the pacing. It's like the pacing, the acting, and not to mention, it's basically just jump scare the movie is what they should call this movie. And they do the same jump scare so often that I was in disbelief by the end of it. It's like insert whatever CGI monster or CGI zombie you want into like a scene. And the scene is going to end with that fucking monster like speed walking, shaking its head back and forth and screaming. And then it just like they run away and the scene cuts and it's like, okay, that's fucking stupid. We don't need to see that in every fucking scene. That happens so often. The one that really pissed me off was the Henry Bauer one when he's still in the insane asylum or whatever, the mental institution, and he sees the dead guy under his bed, which that kind of pissed me off too, because in the book he sees Belch and Belch like talks to him and shit, and he's like all fucked up by the way that he died from Pennywise. And this one he sees the guy. You know, it's different in the book. In the book, he sees the guy that like they weren't really friends with that was kind of like a sociopath. This guy that like ends up jacking off Henry Bowers in the book, like basically like sexually molesting him in a junkyard. And that's the guy that he sees under his bed. And this guy looks like, he kind of looks like the hitchhiker from Texas Chainsaw Massacre if he was a rotten corpse. And he just like army crawls fast as fuck out from underneath his bed, screaming, doing that like fast sped up like head shake thing. And then it just cuts to that, you know, Henry Bowers and that guy like in a car and the corpse guy's driving it. And I was just like, all right, this fucking sucks. This movie's a fucking piece of shit.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Pretty much from that moment on, I lost any hope that it was going to be good. But I didn't think it was going to keep doing the same fucking bullshit jump scare at the end of every scene like it did. And I was just like, all right, this fucking sucks. The movie fucking sucks, honestly. And the other thing that I'm always just going to have a difference of opinion about with a lot of people is the Pennywise comparison. I don't give a shit about Skarsgård's version of Pennywise at all. Like, especially after reading the book, I was thinking like, okay, maybe the Skarsgård Pennywise is more like the book version of Pennywise. So maybe that's why people are fucking always like, oh yeah, the Bill Skarsgård's fucking goddamn Pennywise scares the fuck out of me. But Tim Curry's is far superior. I don't give a shit what anybody says. You can say what you want about that movie. If you're just looking at the two comparisons, it doesn't come close to Tim Curry, man. No fucking way. Bill Skarsgård is basically just like doing googly eyes the whole time and talking like Scooby-Doo and drooling out his fucking mouth. It's in the book, Pennywise is like the Tim Curry Pennywise. He's like joking with them while he's trying to fucking kill him and stuff like that. And he's like being a silly goose while he's appearing to them, you know, in all these like fucked up situations and shooting blood out everywhere and stuff and turning into monsters. It's just, you're never going to convince me that the Skarsgård version of Pennywise is a better performance. It just isn't. It's a tough one because like from what I've seen from the Welcome to Derry, it does seem like he does a better job in that TV series. But in these first two movies, I thought it was dog shit. I couldn't understand why people are, you know, tripping over themselves to defend his performance in these movies. And like they'll play clips of like Tim Curry doing the library thing where he's like saying all the prank call jokes to Richie, and they'll be like, you think that's better than this? And it'll just cut to like a CGI ass Bill Skarsgård, you know, just drooling. And it's like, yeah, I do think that's a better fucking performance. You dumb motherfuckers.
God damn.
I think the performance where the guy actually has to try and become the character, yeah, I do think that's a better performance than him just doing a shitty Scooby-Doo voice and just, talking like he's never spoke the fucking English language before in his life. It's insane. Just like some of the dumb shit that he says. Anyway, I could go on about this movie for a long fucking time. The ending was ridiculous. Just so much shit to talk about that was just ridiculous. Like the whole ending sequence just sucked my ass. It's just like fucking the part when Ben gets his abs cut and they just like literally just show you his fucking abs for way too long. I was like, and then like his abs get like healed again because they're imagining that they're being healed and stuff. I think what it is that they should have gone whole hog. They should have pulled their whole hog out and slammed it down on the table and done the book ending where it gets into this crazy, like interdimensional, like cosmic battle that they're going through where they're basically like fighting Pennywise with their minds and shit. Instead, they kind of do like a weak ass version of that where they just like insult him and like, they're like, I'm not afraid of you. They basically do the Nightmare on Elm Street thing where they're like, you have no power over me, or the labyrinth thing, They just straight up do that, and then they're just like, you're a clown, you're a clown, you're a bitch, we don't like you, and we aren't scared of you, little bitch. And then he just like shrinks, and they tear his heart out, and it's like, okay, that fucking sucks. It fucking sucked my dick, dude. I mean, do the book ending. Like these movies, like the It movies, I think had like some crazy fucking budgets. Do the crazy cosmic ending. Not to mention in the book, the whole town like collapses. Like all the streets start it's basically like an apocalypse going on in Derry where like the whole town can almost like never recover from it because of how fucking crazy this whole battle ends up becoming. And how powerful it is once it finally dies. It like destroys the roads and shit, and all the buildings start collapsing in. People are just like dying left and right because they're getting squashed by like this, earthquake type of shit going on. But in this, it's just like this shitty house on Neibolt Street just collapses in, and they're like, well, that's that. I guess it's finally dead. Anyway, see you guys later. I'll remember you guys forever. And that's another fucking shitty thing about it is that in the book, I thought what was really meaningful and what the book seems to like, at least in my opinion, mostly be about is, obviously about like growing up and kind of forgetting your childhood or stuff like that. Like the really important moments in your childhood and kind of like losing touch with your friends, which I thought that was like really, I don't know. I just thought it was really nice, had like a deeper like meaning to it all. So at the end of the book, once they part ways, the people that leave Derry like quickly start forgetting. Like Richie forgets about Mike when Mike calls him. Mike even starts forgetting, even though he's the one that remembered because he stuck around in Derry. Bill ends up sticking around in Derry and living at Mike's house while his wife recovers because his wife gets attacked by fucking Pennywise and shit, and she gets like brought into the deadlights, so he's trying to like nurse her back to health. And while they're there, they can still remember everything, but it's starting to fade. Everybody else, like Bev and Ben and everybody that leaves, they start forgetting like rapidly. And then they realize that this is it. Like now that Pennywise is dead and it's gone and stuff like that, they're going to ultimately like forget each other and forget everything other than maybe see their names in their contact list. So I just thought that was a really great way to end the book, a really great way to end the story. But in the movie, it's the opposite. They like part ways and they're just like, damn, I can remember everything fine now. And we can always be friends forever. And Big Bill's going to write the book on the damn Pennywise story or whatever. And it's just like, get that fucking bullshit out of here. They should have just stuck to the book, honestly. Like, there's really no reason for them not to, considering most of the things that they did in the movie anyway were like kind of close to the book. You know what I mean? It felt like they were playing it fairly close, but really just stick to the goddamn script and get it done. Do it the right way this time, motherfuckers. I don't know. Maybe we'll watch Welcome to Derry. I keep hearing that's really good. So I'm trying to think of there's so much because the book is so fucking long. And, obviously It Chapter 2 is kind of I guess it's like a 2-hour long movie, I think, but still it feels like it just barely touches some of the stuff. I know that you put both the movies together to create the full story. They go hand in hand. Fuck. But I'm not going to think about that all right now. Maybe we'll do like a full breakdown at some time and I'll really get my shit together instead of just kind of doing this off the cuff. Anyway, let's get to the final movie, the fourth and final movie. This is the main event right here. This is the one that really counts. Titanic. We had Titanic Panic. God damn it. We had Titanic Panic in the 90s like you'll never understand unless you live through it, because I remember when this shit came out and everybody was talking about it. Everybody had the double cassette VHS, and they were watching that shit like gangbusters. All the kids were talking about the titties and stuff like that. And you know what? I didn't watch that shit. I didn't watch Titanic for a long time. And it's mostly because my favorite CDs at the time when the movie came out were Significant Other by Limp Bizkit and Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water by Limp Bizkit. So I was not going to watch this pussy ass movie when I was 7 years old. I was a real fucking man. I was a real metalcore wigger. And I was not going to watch some Leonardo DiCaprio cry shit. You know what I'm saying?
God damn.
So I didn't watch it. Eventually, when I grew up and realized that I was a stupid fucking idiot when I was 7, I did watch it. And I thought it was pretty good, But I hadn't watched it for a long time. So I was like, you know what? We're just going to throw on Titanic, watch this one with the wife, and just, really soak it in and enjoy it. It was a lot different than I remember. That was like right away, just getting into it. I was like, okay, I don't remember all this like shit at the beginning where they're dropping down in the submersible and you got Bill Paxton just being like, yeah, look for the treasure. Look under the dresser and see if you can get to the treasure under there. So that was a little different. I was like, okay, the effects are great. I mean, you got James Cameron up in this bitch, one of the best to ever do it, just because Terminator, Aliens, and Terminator 2, historical run this guy went on. And he's kind of fucking shit in the bed now with Avatar, but you know what? He can do whatever he wants at this point. Just with Terminator 1 and 2 alone, do whatever you want, big guy. I don't know. But in this movie too, he does a really great job. I thought the effects look great. It looks like you're really under there. They probably were building miniatures and stuff like that, especially when you see them like operating the Titanic on the inside. But the big takeaway from this movie for me is how similar it was to the current events that were happening at the time. Like Leo goes in there. Basically, Zane is clavicular and Leo is the ASU frat leader. And Leo just straight up mogs Zane in a surprising turn of events, because you would kind of, Zane isn't worried about Leo at all. Like Leo's on the boat, just like basically stealing his bitch right under his nose. And Zane doesn't even give a fuck. He's just kind of like, yeah, what's up, you little poor piece of shit? He's like, oh, you're running around like holding my fucking fiance's hand the whole time and going dancing with her and shit like that. And she seems like she's really having a good time and she fucking hates my ass. I'm not worried about that shit. I got too much damn money. And surprise, surprise, Leo straight up steals his bitch. And another thing that surprised me, though, is that I didn't remember about like Rose is a 17-year-old in this movie, but after getting into it, it makes perfect sense. She acts like a fucking 17-year-old. The first interaction she has with fucking Jack or whatever is the most 17-year-old shit I've ever seen in my life. She's basically just kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it. She's basically just acting like a dumb bitch the whole time. And Jack's just kind of like, all right, yeah, I just saved your life and shit. And she's just like, well, anyway, you're being fucking rude to me now, so I don't even want to talk to your fucking bitch ass. And Jack's like, all right, then, well, see you later, I guess. And then she's like, what? You're not even gonna, try to fucking talk to me anymore or something? He's like, I don't know. You're the one that said you didn't want to talk to me or some shit like that. And then, and she's like, well, I never, and shit like that. Like some straight up Mr. Brightside music video type of shit on his ass. I don't know. It was driving me nuts. Honestly, the whole Rose character in this movie, I know it's like a pretty common take anymore to think that like Rose is the villain of the movie because she obviously could have let Jack on the door and he didn't have to freeze to death in the fucking ocean or whatever. But I think even before all that, she's just kind of a fucking dumbass. She's on the ship, she meets Jack and they start falling in love and stuff like that and partying and having fun and everything. And then she's got this other guy here, Zane, that's like a billionaire that wants to marry her. And she doesn't want to marry him. But hey, guess what? The thing that they do talk about this, she doesn't have to even marry him. I don't know what the fucking deal is. I get that her mom wants her to marry Zane. I can't think of his real name, so I'm just calling him Zane because it's played by Billy Zane. She doesn't have to marry him. It's not like the Middle East or something where they're going to like chop her head off if she doesn't marry this guy. She's just like, her mom's just like, hey, we're about out of fucking money, bitch. Marry this fucking rich guy or whatever. And she's just like, I don't want to. I hate hanging out with rich people. They're so fucking boring. I just want to hang out with this goddamn poor guy that lives under a bridge. And she could do that is the thing. She could just be like, hey, even if she didn't like go be with Jack or whatever, she could just be like, actually, Mom, I'm not going to marry this motherfucker. I don't give a shit if you have to sell all your clothes and work a regular job. Because those are like the circumstances that we're dealing with here. Her mom's basically like, hey, we used to be rich, but your fucking dad's dead or whatever, and he didn't leave us anything. So we're running out of damn money. Do you want to have to sell all of our stuff? And it's like, yeah, why doesn't she just say like, yeah, that's fine with me. I don't give a fuck if you sell all of her stuff. Obviously, she's like getting ready to kill herself at one point. She was getting ready to jump off the back of the Titanic, like, 30 minutes into the movie and kill herself. And it's just like, yeah, why don't you just tell your mom that? Be like, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll marry this guy, but I'm probably going to kill myself. Is that cool with you? Her mom, at that point might at least listen and be like, yeah, you know what? Maybe fucking marry somebody else. We'll see. I'll get a job. It's not that big a deal. Don't jump off the Titanic and kill yourself, dumb bitch, and stuff like that. So yeah, there's that whole angle to it where it's like she's kind of making all this fucking drama for no reason. And like Billy Zane doesn't even really seem to give a fuck. He's not like this guy that's like, you get to a point later on in the movie where, yeah, he does become a piece of shit and he does like smack her and stuff like that. And he does the thing with the kid when he's trying to get off the boat. He's a shitty guy, obviously. I'm not like sticking up for Billy Zane's character in this movie or anything like that. But as far as like him and Rose's relationship goes, he's just kind of like telling her like, yep, we're going to get married, which is the truth. And she's just kind of like, oh, you're disgusting. I fucking hate you and stuff like that. But he's just kind of chilling the whole time. He's just like, nah, this is what I do. I'm a fucking rich guy. I go hang out with my rich guy friends and we talk about boring shit and drink and smoke and whatever. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't make any sense. Like if she was being forced into marriage or whatever, it would make a little more sense. But the option is always there. And I think even if she just told him like, hey, I don't want to marry you, let's not get married, I don't think it would be that big a deal to him. He's like a young guy too, and he's got all this money and shit. It's not like she's the only person out there for him to marry. It doesn't make any fucking sense to me, honestly. Like, especially around this time watching it, I was like, I don't know. That whole thing feels pretty weak. The whole story about this, like, love triangle kind of thing that's going on here. It doesn't hold much weight for me this time around. The other thing that kind of stood out to me this time is that they made Billy Zane's character entirely too gay. Like half the time he's covered in fucking foundation and his eyebrows are drawn on. He doesn't need to look that gay, okay? They should have made him like cooler looking, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what that choice was all about, but I just cannot take this guy fucking serious the whole time. You know what? It's like almost the way that he looks is the only reason not to like him in the movie for the most part. It's just like, I can't get past that. You know what I'm saying? I can't get past the way he looks. His eyebrows, his hairline, his foundation and shit. If it wasn't for that, I would think he's a pretty okay guy. But I remember thinking like, oh, this guy's awful, like right off the bat. And it's really just the way that he looks. Which is, kind of sucks to say, but it's the truth. So other than that, was there anything else to say about the Titanic? It's an interesting story, that's for sure, I guess. Probably cut all this fucking bullshit out. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Other than like Rose proves to also be a big dumb bitch at the very end of the movie too, where she's just like, here's this necklace that you're fucking looking for. And she throws it into the ocean again. And it's just like, hey, bitch, why don't you throw yourself into the fucking ocean for once? Get the fuck out of this movie already. So anyway, I don't remember. I didn't rate it chapter 2 yet. It chapter 2 is a 1 out of 5. That movie sucked. The Titanic, 3 out of 5. Still pretty decent. Still holds up pretty well. I thought the effects and everything. The weakest part about it is the love triangle and kind of the bullshit story or whatever, where it's just like, all right, I get it. You know, these guys are fucking in a car or whatever, and they're running around, and it just, a lot of it didn't add up. There's also the whole thing with like the guy that's Billy Zane's like assistant. Why does he hate Jack so much? Billy Zane doesn't have anything financially to gain from this marriage, is what you find out. Like, there's no money coming in it for him. And if he's this like greedy asshole, you think that would be the whole motivation. So why does this guy give a fuck if she's running off with Jack or not? But this guy's like ready to murder Jack because she's cheating on him with Jack. And it just doesn't make any sense. Is it just because he hates poor people? I guess that's like one reason you could come up with. But other than that, I mean, it just, what's the whole point of the movie? It's just this guy that's like, yeah, I'm going to fucking handcuff you while the ship's sinking and, basically threaten you with a gun the whole time because you're banging this 17-year-old girl. Like, it just doesn't really make any sense to me. But other than that, pretty solid movie. And that's it. That's the Wisdom Tooth movie marathon, the Titanic Panic from the 90s. Next week, I'm just going to pick up where I left off and watch the movie Twixt by Francis Ford Coppola. I don't know much about this movie. I'm really interested to check it out. I'm sure we're going to be doing a little in-depth look at Coppola's history and some of his questionable decision-making when it comes to supporting child predators. That's definitely a hot topic in the news lately. If you haven't heard about the Epstein files, I wonder if FFC, Francis Ford Coppola, might pop up in those, because it gets a little bit more questionable than probably what you're expecting if you don't know about his relationship with a certain director from a certain movie called Jeepers Creepers. We'll talk about that next week, because I could not believe this shit when I first learned about it. So thanks for listening, and good night.